Hey everyone, and welcome to today's deep dive. We're digging into companion planting, specifically for all you strawberry lovers out there.
It's amazing how much of a difference the right companions can make, isn't it?
Absolutely. Whether you're a seasoned gardener or just starting out, get ready for some seriously juicy tips.
We're going beyond just sticking plants together. We're talking about creating a thriving ecosystem right in your garden.
Exactly. And, it sounds pretty simple on the surface,
Right.
but like everything in nature, there's this whole hidden world going on beneath the soil.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
We're talking about ancient wisdom meeting modern science, understanding why certain plants are practically BFFs, and how they actually help each other thrive.
It's fascinating. And speaking of thriving, our sources dive right into what strawberries love, that well-drained soil, a slightly acidic pH, plenty of sunshine.
The good stuff.
But let's be honest, strawberries can be a little high maintenance.
Yeah, they've got that reputation for being a tad picky.
Just a tad. Prone to pests, sensitive to the wrong conditions, so why are they so fussy?
Well, it all comes down to their needs. Take soil pH, for instance.
Okay, pH. It's not just about acidity, right?
Right. Even tiny shifts in that pH can actually lock up essential nutrients in the soil, like iron and magnesium.
Oh, wow. So even if you're watering and fertilizing like crazy.
Exactly. If that pH is off, those nutrients are basically locked away in a vault. The strawberries can't access them.
So they're practically starving, even with a feast in front of them.
Exactly.
That's a great analogy. And it makes you realize why companion planting is so brilliant. It's like assembling this dream team of plants to support your strawberries.
Exactly. Giving them what they need to truly flourish.
And speaking of dream teams, our sources are really highlighting herbs as top companion choices for strawberries. What is it about herbs that make them such superstars in the garden? It's like they've got these secret superpowers.
Herbs are like the ultimate multitaskers of the plant world. They add that incredible flavor to our dishes.
Yeah, absolutely.
But they've also got these amazing defense mechanisms that can really benefit our strawberries. Remember we were talking about that whole chemical warfare thing happening between plants?
Oh, yeah. Allelopathy.
Exactly. Allelopathy. And herbs. Herbs are masters at it.
Okay, so for those of us who don't speak plant, break down this allelopathy thing for us.
Okay, so basically certain plants and herbs are really good at this. They release these compounds into the soil. Think of it like,
Invisible force fields.
yes, like invisible force fields.
Yeah.
And these compounds, they can either repel pests directly,
Yeah.
or they can even inhibit the growth of other plants that are competing for resources.
It's like they're putting out a keep out sign.
Exactly. Exactly. Like take thyme, for example.
Okay, thyme, classic herb.
Yeah, and a great companion, by the way, for strawberries.
Yeah.
Thyme releases this compound called thymol.
Thymol.
Yeah, and it's a natural fungicide.
Handy.
Right. So it can deter those common strawberry pests, those spider mites, aphids. It's like you're putting out a welcome mat for good stuff and then a big keep out sign for the bad stuff.
I love that. And it's not just about defense, right? Because our sources also mention how herbs can attract those beneficial insects.
Yes.
And I'll admit, I used to be the type of gardener I'd see any bug in my garden and I'd freak out.
Yeah, a lot of people are. Totally.
But over time, you start to learn to appreciate those good guys, right?
Yes.
The ladybugs, the lacewings.
Oh, yeah. Love those guys.
Even those tiny parasitic wasps, those are the ones that give me the heebie-jeebies, but they're actually on our side.
They are. They're working for us. And herbs like dill and parsley, they're sending out these signals, attracting those beneficial insects with their scent, their nectar.
So it's like we're setting the table for the good guys.
Exactly. Exactly. And those little helpers, they're voracious predators.
They're hungry.
They're gobbling up those aphids, spider mites, anything that's trying to munch on your strawberries.
So they're like our little army of tiny bodyguards.
Yes. Working around the clock.
I love it. This is starting to sound less like a garden and more like, a whole intricate ecosystem.
That's exactly what it is.
With plants, insects, all playing their part, working together.
It's amazing, isn't it?
It is. It's reminding me, our source mentioned chamomile, dill, and parsley can actually improve the flavor of strawberries. How does that even work?
Yeah, it's so interesting.
Are they sharing secret recipes underground?
Right. I know. That's one of those things, the gardeners have known about it for centuries, right?
Right.
But scientists are still trying to kind of crack the code. Some theories suggest it might be the way that certain herbs interact with like the soil microbiome.
Oh, the microbiome. Yeah, everyone's talking about the microbiome these days.
Yeah, it's not just us. Plants have it too. So
Mhm.
it's like influencing the availability of nutrients that then impacts flavor.
Yeah.
Or it could be as simple as, the herbs creating this sort of microclimate
Oh, interesting.
that enhances the strawberry's natural sweetness.
So we've got pest control, beneficial insects, flavor enhancement. Herbs really are the MVPs of companion planting, but what about flowers? Are they just there to look pretty, or are they bringing something more to the party?
Oh, they are definitely not just there for looks.
No way.
Flowers have such an important job when it comes to attracting pollinators,
Absolute.
and they can even, help deter those pesky pests.
It's amazing how nature works.
It really is. And speaking of amazing, our sources call out marigolds as, superstars when it comes to
Oh
strawberries.
yeah, marigolds are fantastic.
What is it about them?
Well, they're like, the ultimate multitaskers of the flower world
Okay, I like it.
because they've got that 1-2 punch, right?
Yeah. So not only are they attracting those beneficial insects with their, bright, cheerful colors,
Yeah.
but marigolds, they also have these compounds that naturally deter certain pests.
So they're pretty and tough.
Exactly. They don't mess around. In fact, they're known to deter those root knot nematodes, which those can be a real problem.
Oh yeah, they can wreak havoc.
They can, especially on strawberries, damaging the roots,
Yeah.
really impacting their growth.
It's like they've got their own little bodyguards.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly. It's like, a fragrant, colorful bodyguard protecting your strawberry plants.
I love that image. It really drives home that point that we're working with nature here.
Exactly.
Right. We don't need like the harsh chemicals when you've got marigolds on the job.
Nature's got to figure it out. We just have
Uh-huh.
to kind of tap into those systems.
Totally. And speaking of tapping in, our source also mentions nasturtiums. And I know those are edible. I love
Well,
nasturtiums.
they're so versatile.
But are there other benefits to having them around our strawberries?
Oh, absolutely. Nasturtiums, they're, like the companion planting trifecta, I would say,
Oh, I like it.
because you got the flowers, right?
Yeah.
They're attracting the pollinators, bees, butterflies.
Oh, he's a good.
But then the leaves, they act as this kind of like trap crop.
Okay. How does that work?
So they lure those pests, like aphids, away from your precious strawberries.
Oh, they're like the decoy.
Exactly. They're like, come over here. Don't look at those delicious strawberries over there.
I'm much tastier.
Exactly. And then, you get the added bonus of being able to enjoy those, peppery blossoms in your salad.
Exactly. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. Wow. Okay. So we've talked about herbs, we've talked about flowers. What about veggies? Because I know a lot of gardeners, they like to kind of interplant them in their strawberry patches.
Yeah. It's a great strategy.
What do you think?
I love it. It makes sense both from a space-saving perspective, but then also from that companion planting perspective.
Get the most bang for your buck.
Right. And, our sources actually call out lettuce and spinach as being excellent choices.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And it's not just because of the shade they provide, although that is a big bonus, especially, as we head into those warmer months.
Right, because we talked about earlier, those strawberries, they can get a little stressed out with too much direct sun.
Yes, they get sunburned just like us.
They need their shade.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so think of, that lettuce and that spinach
Mm,
as kind of providing like a natural lattice cover,
right.
right? Almost like mimicking a forest setting
Okay.
where those strawberries might be getting dappled light,
Oh, I like that. Okay.
right? And they act as that living mulch, right? Helping to retain moisture in the soil.
Which is so important.
So important, especially for strawberries.
They like that consistent moisture, don't they?
They do. They're thirsty plants. But then, also suppressing weed growth. So it's kind of like they're doing triple duty there.
It's amazing. It really is amazing how these companion relationships, it's like a ripple effect of benefits throughout the whole system.
Exactly.
And speaking of the whole system, our source even mentions like fruit trees as potential companions for strawberries.
Yeah, it sounds strange, right?
This one kind of threw me for a loop, I have to admit.
Yeah, it's not as intuitive, but certain fruit trees, like apple trees, for example, can actually provide that kind of beneficial dappled shade for strawberries, especially as you get into, those warmer climates.
Okay.
The key is you want to choose, dwarf varieties,
Okay.
space them carefully so
Right,
that
right.
they're not totally blocking out the sun.
It's all about balance.
Exactly. Balance is key with everything.
Just like in life. Well, we've covered so much ground today, from like the really cool science behind companion planting to these very specific pairings.
That's been fun.
It has. Our source actually gives this really handy blueprint for setting up like a strategic companion garden. Do you want to kind of walk through that together?
Let's do it. I love a good blue pop.
Okay, so they recommend starting with like a foundation of borage.
Great choice.
Remember how we talked about it being that like flavor booster, pollinator attractor, pest repellent?
The all-in-one.
It's like the MVP of this little lineup.
Absolutely. And, strategically interplanting that with, like, some spinach for that added shade,
Yeah.
moisture retention.
All coming together.
I love it.
And then, of course, we've got our marigolds. Our blueprint says to put those kind of strategically throughout the garden so they're creating that, beautiful but also effective, like, pest deterrent barrier.
Yes. Keep those bad bugs out.
And then to finish it off, we've got thyme, just filling in all those gaps as a fragrant pest-repelling ground cover. It's like giving your strawberry patch this, like, luxurious aromatic carpet.
I love it. This blueprint, it just, really shows how each one of these plants has a specific role.
They're all working together.
Exactly. To support those strawberries.
It's a beautiful example of how nature can work in harmony.
Listen.
It really is. But I think it's important to point out our source does say, even with the absolute best companions in the world, proper care is still key.
100%.
Companion planting, it's about giving them a helping hand. It's not replacing like good gardening practices.
Right. It's not a magic bullet.
Exactly. So make sure you're still like, giving them that water they need, making sure that soil is draining well, fertilizing, and, observe your plants. Don't be afraid to like adjust based on what you're seeing.
Exactly. It's all about, working with your garden, not just, imposing our will.
Yeah. Right. Because it is a relationship at the end of the day.
It is.
Well, I don't know about you, but after this deep dive, I am ready to grab my gardening gloves and get planting.
Me too. Let's go.
We've covered so much today, from that, fascinating science behind it all to those really practical tips. It's amazing how much there is to learn about, like that interconnectedness, even just in our own backyard.
Right. It's like the secret world that we get to be a part of.
It really is. And, that's what I find so rewarding about gardening in general, but especially this companion planting. It's just this constant journey of discovery, it's experimentation, and of course, delicious rewards.
Exactly.
So to all of you listening, get out there, experiment, see what amazing discoveries are waiting for you in your gardens. Until next time, happy gardening.